this day, 1977, at Madison Square Garden, Muhammad Ali rallies late to defeat Earnie Shavers and retain the World Heavyweight title.
Shavers trying to survive to the final bell. What a fight!
And we're back, like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Sunday morning here with me in New York. Once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. Well, once again, I am wearing one of my 3 Ali shirts, and this is the one that was kind of spoofed and echoed in Quentin Tarantino's debut film, Reservoir Dogs, when Harvey Keitel and Michael Madsen have what amounts to a toxic masculinity contest, each one kind of smiling and joking and threatening the other. And Michael Madsen goes like that with his finger, and Harvey Keitel says, "You shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize." Well, what the man himself said, if he even dreamed of beating me, he better wake up and apologize. So on this day, 47 years ago, 1977, Muhammad Ali fought at Madison Square Garden for, I believe it was the 7th time. Well, let's go through the numbers. Sonny Banks in 1962. First time he fought in the Garden, he was 20, and Banks was also a big prospect. Banks actually knocked, at the time, Cassius Clay down, hit him with a big booming left hook in the 2nd round, but the kid kind of hit the canvas, and it almost looked like he bounced up. He went down, boop, and got right back up. Then he fought Doug Jones in a tough fight in 63. And he fought Zora Foley at Madison Square Garden in 67. He fought Oscar Bonavena in 1970 at Madison Square Garden. He fought he fought Joe Frazier, the fight of the century, March 8, 1971. Then he fought Floyd Patterson in 72 at the Garden. And then he fought Smokin' Joe in the return fight in 74. So Ali had already had a lot of experience in the world's most famous arena. But here we are, it's 1977, September 29, and Ali should have already been retired. He really shouldn't have been fighting anymore. You even go back to Manila, the 3rd fight with Frazier, and he had slowed down enough where it would have been better for his health, and you could argue it would be better for anybody's health if they don't make a living getting their head punched in. I know that, but specific to him, you could argue that, okay, Manila, he could still fight. Yeah, it's not a question of still fight, but was it neurologically, was it acceptable? Was it appropriate? So by the time of the Shavers fight, Ali had some tough title defenses after having beaten Foreman in 74. The Ken Norton fight in 76, there are a lot of people that thought that Kenny should have won the decision. It's very difficult to score Ali fights, though. You go back through time and you look at scorecards and you will be confronted with stuff where you say, well, how is this possible? The second fight between Ali and Ken Norton in 1973, it ended in a split decision. One judge had Norton winning by like 1 round. He had Norton 6-5 with 1 round even, something like that. Another judge had Ali winning 7-5, and a third judge had Ali winning something like 9-1 with 2 rounds even, or 8-2 with 2 rounds even. So it's very difficult. Historically, his fights were almost impossible to score because his ring generalship was so stupendous that he would, in certain people's eyes, he would win rounds just because he looked good doing whatever it was he was trying to do. Boxing's always had controversies with the judging, where fans had felt cheated. Hey, it's 2024, we're still talking about it. This is nothing new, and I'm not talking about corruption. I'm just saying that judging a boxing match is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's very, very difficult. And even in the Olympics, you try to do something like a point system where for each blow that you land, you get a point, and then it takes the judges out of it. But even that, there will be controversies. So Ali, who should have been retired, signs to fight the Dark Destroyer or the man that he nicknamed the Acorn, and he had a lot of laughs in the pre-fight, playing with Ernie's head. He had the shaven head. Earnie Shavers, though, is generally regarded to be the hardest puncher in boxing history. There are those that would say, yes, Deontay Wilder, bigger man, Ernie still hit harder. Shavers' power was far greater than what it should have been, given the fact, he was a big guy, but he shouldn't have been able to hit as hard as he did. Sometimes in boxing, a fighter is more than just the sum of the skill sets. People said that about Ali, because if you assessed his fighting style from when he was a kid, he made a lot of mistakes. Well, he's not going to be able to get away with this unless he does. Shavers should not have been able to punch as hard as he punched, but he did. And in the styles make fights department, you look at some of the guys that Ernie just kicked the shit out of. He almost took Ken Norton's head off. Kenny fought Ali to a standstill 3 times. Kenny never had a chance because Norton's particular style, he seemed to have excessive amounts of trouble against big hitters. Not that Ali enjoyed getting in there with big hitters. George Foreman even joked about Earnie Shavers. Says, I know Muhammad, as George always called him. Now, Muhammad had to fight Ernie. I'm glad I never had to fight Earnie Shavers. It was bad enough with Ron Lyle. But Ali signed to fight Shavers. He wasn't ready to retire. He had a couple of easy fights. The Wepner fight was ridiculous in 75. Richard Dunn, that really shouldn't have been a fight. Jean-Pierre Koopman. So they were giving Ali easier fights. He wasn't just going up against top contenders, which really the heavyweight champion of the world should do. But the sport loved that he was back on top, and they wanted him to stay there as long as he was willing to continue. So when he signed to fight Shavers, Ferdy Pacheco, that was Ali's doctor, the fight doctor, that was his nickname. He didn't want Ali to continue to fight. He said, champ, your kidneys are not doing well. This guy is going to hit you everywhere. You don't need this anymore. You should just walk away. Well, he didn't want to. Whether it was just Code of the Gladiator, whether there was a part of him that really wanted to go out on his shield, because he certainly didn't want to lose. He didn't want to get humiliated, or just an idea that I can still do this and I'm a born competitor. He didn't really speak like that. We just have to kind of surmise what his thought process was at the time. And we're not talking about an older man. He's only 35. In certain sports, 35 is still really young. And golf, you might have 15 more years of prime at 35. But people were worried. Even if he beat Shavers, he wasn't going to be able to knock him out early. Ali was never that kind of fighter. He was a combination puncher. He was a counter puncher. He was a guy who still, even at an older age and not nearly as effective as he had been only a few years earlier, he still knew how to keep distance, and he knew how to win rounds, and he knew how to open cuts. He knew how to frustrate and bewilder and daze and knock down his opponents, even if he wasn't a Mike Tyson throwing a home run bomb, sending a guy across the ring unconscious. That was never his fight. Most people felt that Ali, even the kind of diminished Ali of 77, would beat Ernie. And history tells us Ali won the fight. But what I mentioned before about the judging and the fact that fans were always pissed off about the scoring and the Ali-Norton fight, there was the controversy because there were some people that felt that Kenny had done enough to win. But then you get into the other argument, did he really do enough to take the title away from Ali? Or did he just kind of win a razor-thin decision where if these are just two random guys, he probably gets that? There's so much to unpack with all of that. Because there is an idea that says, to take a champion's world title, you have to beat him decisively. It's not enough to peck and poke and move around. And, you guys probably could have fought another 10 rounds because they both looked fresh in round 15. That's the kind of cardio, and Ali, even if he was diminished physically, he still had incredible stamina. And so did Norton. You saw him in the famous fight with Larry Holmes in 78. It was crazy that guys, after a pitched battle, they're throwing bombs in the 15th round for 3 minutes. So ABC TV, and I have no idea to this day how they managed to get this through or who was involved in the discussions, because I still don't believe this is real. With all the controversies and all the arguing and all of the acrimony with fans and the press, they didn't call it media back then. They were still calling it the press. People were just not trusting the judges. Why should we plunk down our money on the fights if the wrong guy is going to win? Or if we're saying, how the hell did the judges come up with these numbers? What the fuck is happening here? So ABC announced before the fight, and imagine a time where you were able to watch a fight on free TV, a heavyweight championship fight just broadcast on good old broadcast television, not even HBO or Showtime or TVKO or pay-per-view, good old ABC. Monday Night Football, ABC, broadcasting Earnie Shavers, September 29, 1977. ABC made an announcement for the fight. We are going to simulcast the scorecards. We are going to show you, the fans, who won which round on everyone's card. So you guys, I guess, can get pissed off during the fight if you take issue with the scoring. But they wanted to not have any crazy surprises, I guess. Or they wanted to, like watching a World Series of poker and seeing what the players have. It's like you're playing poker along with them, trying to calculate and make decisions. Well, here, everybody knew what the score was after every round. Yeah, they didn't have cell phones, but both Shavers and Ali, they had corner people watching a fight on TV in a dressing room. Okay, Ali won the first round, Earnie won the second round, and so on down the line. So in this fight, Ali is slower, but he's not slow. By his standards, he looked slower than he had even in the Jimmy Young fight the previous year, which was just a terrible, it's top 10 worst heavyweight title fights ever because Ali shouldn't have been out there. And Jimmy Young was never really an exciting fighter. I know he beat George Foreman. He beat George. I still don't understand how that happened, but Jimmy Young was clever. He took a good shot, and he was somebody who regrouped very quickly during a fight, because George was really kicking the crap out of him early, and somehow Young regrouped and just dominated the second half of the fight. George was actually lucky to last to the final bell, because Young could have stopped him. But that was a terrible fight, and there were people that thought that Young won that fight. But in this particular night at Madison Square Garden, Ali took a terrible beating. It was by far the worst beating that he had taken up to that point in his career. Possible exception of Frazier in 71, but if you look at the damage to Frazier's face, Ali had a really swollen jaw. I don't know how his jaw wasn't broken that night, quite frankly. But I feel like Shavers squared him up, and Shavers just hit harder than Joe. Earnie landed some right hands, some home run bombs that would have knocked most people unconscious. And this was the extraordinary thing in every sense, good and bad, with Ali, that he could get hit with shots that were supposed to knock him unconscious. And if he was shaken up, which he was staggered a few times in this fight, he just seemed to recover in a matter of maybe a second or two. There's a moment where Earnie lands this howitzer of a right hand. It almost was like the shot that almost killed Larry Holmes in their title fight in 79. Holmes getting up from that knockdown is up there with the greatest rises from a knockdown where the fighter was able to continue, and Holmes actually ended up winning the fight. But there's a moment in this fight, Ali early on seems to be able to keep distance and control Earnie. He's able to kind of sense when Ernie's going to throw the big right hand. And it's not that Earnie couldn't punch with the left, but the right hand was his home run bomb, the overhand right. And so Ali, in the first round, he's clowning, he's playing to the crowd. He and Earnie, they're actually having a few laughs together in the ring. They were friends outside the ring. They're still trying to win the fight. But in the second round, Earnie lands an enormous right, and Ali goes staggering back. And Shavers knows he hit him hard, starts to advance. But Ali does this thing that he was famous for, and he feigns being more hurt than he actually is, or that's what Shavers thought. So when Earnie moved in thinking, hey, I've got a shot, I'm gonna take my moment here and I'm gonna fire everything at him, Earnie started thinking, wait a minute, he's clowning. Maybe I didn't hit him as hard as I thought. So Earnie was very careful. He was still throwing, but he didn't want to burn himself out because he wasn't 100% sure that the champ was close to being at least put on the floor. And there were a number of different moments in the fight where Earnie landed that overhand right, which had stopped so many really top-end fighters like Norton, and almost taking the title from Larry Holmes a couple of years later. Ernie was landing, but Ali was doing enough in many of the rounds where he was winning the fight. So there are certain things that can't be explained when it comes to professional athletes, but when it comes to fighters, that they do have this code of the gladiator. There's nothing phony about it, and there's nothing wrong with calling it that or something like that, because the wiring is different. And so the way this fight played out, Earnie Shavers, he knew he was down on points. But Ernie really came on strong, and the double-edged sword of him not going all out for a KO in the first part of the fight because he wasn't sure that the champ was really in as much trouble as his Susie Q haymaker should have put him in. Well, maybe I didn't quite get him where I thought I got him. Maybe I got him to where I almost broke his cheekbone, but he seems like he's okay. He doesn't seem like he's staggering or he's about to go to the ground. But Ernie dominated the later rounds. And round 14, there was a moment where Ali goes down and they called it a slip. I thought that was more of a knockdown than when Chuck Wepner stepped on his foot in 75. But it was called a slip. But it's one of those where you hit a guy and he reacts to the punch and then he loses his footing and goes down. It was one of those. A different ref probably would have called it a knockdown. It doesn't matter. It's not that Ali wasn't out. He got right back up. But the sight of Ali on the floor and Shaver standing over him, that's not a good memory if you're an Ali fan like I am, whether or not it was called a knockdown. So Ali went back to his corner after 14. He had an insurmountable lead on the cards. He was up by, I think, 2 points, 3 points, and 4 points, or 3 points, 3 points, and 4, whatever it was. There was no process by which Ernie could do anything other than lose unless he scored a knockout of some kind in the 15th round. And so this was a kind of advantage for Ali in this particular fight that everybody had the score. And they're flashing it, and Kenny Norton was also commenting on it. I think Ken thought that the scoring was accurate. Remember, he had just fought Ali the previous year at Yankee Stadium. That's the third fight that I referenced where a lot of people thought Kenny won it. If he was still sore about that, it does not. And you can check this out on YouTube. Ken Norton's commentary for this fight was really, really good. Now, he couldn't have known that less than 2 years later, Shavers was going to almost kill him. It was just a bad matchup. Shavers was a bad matchup for everybody, but he was an especially bad matchup for a fighter like Norton who fought out of a shell and didn't like people throwing haymakers at him nonstop. So after 14 rounds, and Shavers almost had a 10-8 round in round 14, that is how badly Ali was on the receiving end, on the defensive. Ali went back to his corner after 14. He looked like he was a beaten fighter, but he knew he was winning on points. So what his corner said, words to the effect of, you just have to survive. It doesn't matter what happens in this round as long as the ref doesn't stop it, but you don't really have to do anything other than try to keep distance, keep your hands up, don't clown, just don't let the guy square you up again. Don't give the ref any opportunity to stop the fight. Not that they were going to do that for no reason. But in champions, in some of the all-time greats of the sport, there is something that burned within them that cannot be explained. Mike Tyson has talked about this with regards to his idol and friend, Ali. There was something different with that guy. He was in the ring, even in older, he still looked like a model. But he was willing to die in the ring. If that's what it took, if that's how I go, he probably wouldn't have said that either. Because when he beat Frazier in Manila, he said that's the closest thing to dying, and he didn't say it like it was a good thing or that he was happy. He was just happy he survived. But knowing that he already had the fight won, as long as he could last the final 3 minutes, he was going to win the decision and go home. But whatever it was that made him different than virtually anyone who ever did this, at least, certainly at the elite levels, he didn't go out in the 15th to survive the round. He went out in the 15th to try to knock Earnie Shavers out. And you hate to drag other fighters or point to moments in time where fighters coasted with a big lead or tried to. He didn't know any other way to fight. All he knew was, Ernie's in front of me. He's also tired. I'm not running. I'm taking it to him. And that 15th round encapsulates Ali, the sportsman. And really, this was the last great round that he fought. And you could say easily, this is one of the finest performances of his entire career, given how diminished he already was physically relative to where he had been just a few years earlier. He went out in that 15th round, and Ernie went out, and Ernie even talked about it after the fight. I thought he was on. I watched him walk back to his corner in the 14th, and I was feeling reasonably okay. He hadn't really gotten to me that much. He landed a lot of punches, but I felt okay. I thought I really had a chance. I know he hadn't been stopped before, but I thought I had a chance. He came out in the 15th round like it was round 4, and he was just a little bit tired, as opposed to round 15, where he barely made it back to his corner at the end of the 14th, and I thought I had a real shot to stop him. So the 15th round, both guys gave everything they had. And I know it's also a cliche, but to see two guys in a title fight, a world heavyweight title fight, letting it all hang out, not coasting, not even pausing to catch a breath, but just continuing to throw haymakers, to throw bombs at each other. Each guy had their moments. And the excitement in Kenny Norton's voice as he's calling it, I don't think it wasn't Don Dunphy. I'm not sure who he was calling it with. I don't think it was Tim Ryan either, who did such a beautiful job in the Sugar Ray Leonard-Thomas Hearns fight a few years later. But Norton, he wasn't with Cosell. But the excitement in Norton's voice as the guys are going back and forth. Just for those 3 moments of the 15th round, Ken Norton was not Hall of Fame. Former heavyweight champion, well, in this case, future heavyweight champion, fought some of the great battles. He lost to Foreman. He beat Ali once. He was just a fan. And the excitement in his voice is something that a fan such as myself, you just love to hear it. You love to hear it because he didn't know what was going to happen. So Shavers lands bombs. Ali comes back. And the last 30 seconds of this fight are extraordinary. And it's kind of like if you have to explain Muhammad Ali as an athlete, just as an athlete, you have 1 minute to visually represent him as an athlete, what made him tick, and how he went about his job. The last 30 seconds of the Shavers fight, because both guys landed a lot of punches. Neither guy looked like he was in danger of going down. But Ernie kept advancing and Ali kept matching him. He was not backing up and defending. He was engaging. And with about 30 seconds left in the fight, Ali lands a left hook. He was not really a guy who was known for a big left hook. He usually threw it off his back foot. But you're a 225-pound man who knows how to deliver a punch. Even a left hook off the back foot, if you hit a guy on a point of the chin, it's going to do something. And out of nowhere, and this is similar to what happened in the Bonavena fight in 1970, where Ali throws just a random left hook and Bonavena drops. He hit Shavers with the same kind of shot here. And Shavers was staggered. And rather than just let the fight go or throw some pitter-pat punches, circle away, Ali goes for the knockout. When he does not need to go for the knockout, he advances on Ernie, and the last 30 seconds of that fight, he is throwing everything, and he is landing everything. He lands a series of shots, and Ernie, as he's about to stagger into the ropes, Kenny Norton picks up on this, and he screams, Shavers is hurt, at the top of his lungs. But with all that, with the number of punches he lands on Ernie's head, the acorn, fucking around with him before the fight and all the laughs, Ernie's about to go down, and similar to the ending of the Foreman fight in Zaire, when George has been squared up, Ali lands a left followed by a right, and George is stumbling and staggering around the ring, trying to catch his balance. And Ali is about to deliver another shot. He holds up. And he was asked later, George could have gotten his balance back there. Why didn't you throw that last shot? Ali said, because I thought that George had enough. I thought he'd had enough. Well, in the Shavers fight, Ernie looks like he's about to go down with seconds to go, and Ali cocks his right fist for presumably the coup de grace. The bell rings. He doesn't throw the punch. They didn't say anything about it, but it shows that even in the heat of battle, with everything that had happened over the previous hour of these two guys giving their absolute all, Ali was still a person. He heard the bell. He didn't throw the punch. He had been trying to knock this guy unconscious until the previous half second. And when the bell rang, fight was over. That's it. Good job, Ernie. Great fight. And he won the decision. It is tragic that he didn't retire before this fight, but it's even more tragic that he continued fighting. That he fought another 4 times, it should never have happened. Really, the only fight that you could say was a total embarrassment. If you want to say, the dropping the decision to Leon Spinks, it was terrible. But that was, at least, if you didn't know what you were watching, it was a representative heavyweight title fight. He just shouldn't have been in the ring. The Holmes fight is the one that everybody wishes they could have back. But I believe that the most damage he took, sustained punishment that he took and dished out, was this fight with Ernie. Because, man, that guy could hit. You watch this fight and you say, how is Ali not even moving back on some of these shots? These are the punches that sent Norton across the ring, that sent other big fighters. Ernie was really something. He never ended up winning the heavyweight championship, but he is, considered one of the top guys who never won a title, and in the top probably 10, if not top 5, most feared heavyweights who ever lived, because he just hit so damn hard. Ali said it after he retired. He said, Ernie hit me hard, harder than anybody. He hit me so hard it jarred my kinfolk in Africa. And people laughed, and he was kind of kidding, but he was kind of not kidding. September 29, 1977, at Madison Square Garden, Ali's last great fight, and the final 30 seconds of the 15th round are how you visually explain the sportsman who was and always will be Muhammad Ali, my favorite historical figure of all time. This has been episode 316 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Sunday morning here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Till then, peace.